Northbound 141 south of Big Bend down to 44. You're pretty congested. Southbound 55 on the break south of Arsenal to Bates, and westbound 44 heavy between the bridges downtown. I'm Roger Brand in the Michael's Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
Retirement shouldn't feel like balancing a checkbook while blindfolded. I'm Gary Goldberg, and my team helps you see the big picture so you can retire younger, richer, and with less anxiety. Because guessing is not a strategy. Tune in to Wealth and Wisdom with Gary Goldberg Saturday mornings at 7 here on KMOX.
News, traffic, and the latest from the world of sports. This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
It's Wednesday on Rush Hour Sports. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler hanging out with you till 6. We got Sports Open Line coming up after that. Hello, Mr. Pauley.
Hello.
Going to be busy today. We got some bigger picture things I want to zoom out on that stem from postseason baseball conversations and things along those lines. But I'm going to start right out of the gate. You know, yesterday we had another update. We kind of followed up on what you and Bernie talked about on Monday when it came to Mike Shilt's retirement in San Diego. And well, since we did the show yesterday, there's been some new reporting. Kevin Acey of the San Diego Union-Tribune did a really in-depth story into this. Talked to more than 20 people, players, coaches, front office people. I think it sounded like, including some people in St. Louis, that kind of dive into more of what led to Mike Shildt stepping away from the sport. And he talked further with Mike Shildt after talking to the other people. And what was interesting, Matt, is the initial new reporting was, yes, Mike Shildt retired. He was not fired. He was not forced out. Both he and the team are saying it that way. But turns out that there was a lot going on behind the scenes. And based on the reporting, that Mike Shildt did not deny, because he's in the story. He's quoted as saying, I am what I am. I have standards. That he's pretty tough to work for.
Yeah.
And that he was known for blow-ups at coaches, people on his staff, blow-ups at people in the front office. In fact, there's even a story in there about A.J. Preller, who's the president of baseball operations there, telling another front office employee, I'm going to go meet with Shilty on something, and I'm ready to duck, which means he knows he's going to get some kind of fight based on whatever it is he's bringing up. And there were players love him. There were no issues from players, and that was true here. But what really was interesting and enlightening about it was, I think it changes a little bit of the narrative as it played out here.
I think it does. Couple things. First off, I don't want this to be a, hey, let's drag Mike Shildt through the mud situation.
Not at all, because he's a good guy.
Good guy.
Yeah.
Really good baseball manager.
Won a lot.
Big part of the history of the St. Louis Cardinals from a positive standpoint.
Yep.
So I want to preface everything that I'm saying with, this is not an indictment on 100% of Mike Shildt.
And I didn't have a lot of dealings with Mike Shildt. I had some, and all of them were positive. Yeah, I liked Mike. Whenever I had the chance to do, I did a couple of like sports on a Sunday mornings where he was on. Interacted in person a little bit here and there. I wasn't back at KMOX for a lot of that time, and when I was like just back, not necessarily doing sports. So I didn't have as much contact with him as I did Mike Matheny or Tony La Russa or whatever. But everything I did have, and there was plenty of directs, including when I was at another radio station, was fine. Yeah,
I wasn't here, obviously, but what I have seen is I go to the winter meetings every year, and Shilty's there, and I see the people who I know interact with them and how close they are and the reverence that they have for him. So
Tom Ackerman loves the guy.
Yeah. So
he's a good guy.
I've had a front row seat for that. You have to treat people a certain way. You have to respect people. It seems like he had a problem with that here and also in San Diego. The report was a bunch of the coaches here in St. Louis were just going to walk away.
They were going to quit their jobs if he was back.
Yeah. That's not good. And this is not I read his thing about, I'm not going to lower my standards. Lowering your standards isn't the same as treating people poorly.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
And that's where there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect with him. And Bernie Miklasz is going to be on Sports Open Line today at 6:20. Nice. We're going to talk a lot about this. But I find it interesting that, Bernie was kind of the only guy who reported much of what led to him leaving St. Louis. And that didn't really get picked up. Like, there's a lot of people who are still like, I have no clue why he left St. Louis. And it's like, well, if you would have been following along with Bernie, he was the one guy in the market who was really getting into it. I find it very interesting that the Zoom with Preller yesterday is over, and within a couple hours, Heyman has a story, AC has a story.
Yeah.
This isn't saying that wasn't good reporting, because it was, but you're getting some help at the same time.
Yeah.
There's people that story was dropped into the laps yesterday of people very strategically. I am 100% sure that there were people within the San Diego Padres organization that wanted a certain story about Mike Shildt to get out there, and that's what happened. And I think it says something about the Cardinals that they didn't do it that way.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They handled things very, very differently. So I hate this conversation because I feel like we're talking really poorly about Shildt. We all have personality
traits. It's just providing context because nobody is always one thing. Mike Shildt was a very successful manager. He won games.
Yeah.
His teams played well. They played good fundamental baseball. His players loved him. That's not in dispute. But I think you're right in saying that none of that makes it okay to blow up on people that are beneath you.
Yeah.
Because if you're only really nice to the people that are above you, but also, like, let's be clear, in both organizations, it's also clear that was not only just people beneath them, but it was front office people like Mo, like AJ Preller, who were above him in the pecking order, who also had those clashes, but not the players, because he deferred to players. He prioritized the players, and probably understanding that that's necessary as a major league manager, because if the players turn on you, you're gone.
Hey, the current manager defers to players too.
I agree.
And most major league managers
Most of them do, yes.
Go to battle with players, you're going to lose.
Yeah. So again, the point is not Mike Shildt bad guy. That's not the point, because Mike Shildt's a good guy, and he's a great baseball guy, and he's been a damn good manager for the time that he's been a major league manager. And he's a smart baseball man. He's come up the whole way. But we did see some of the ways that he would get testy when he was questioned in press conferences by reporters here. That was happening in San Diego. The reporting from the San Diego Union Tribune and Kevin Acee said that members of the coaching staff would watch those press conferences and kind of laugh like, well, we know what's coming because it's what we get all the time. Because basically the way it was put is, if people question him, he takes it personally.
Yeah.
But I'll say he's not alone in that. There are a lot of old school big name managers that I'm sure were the same way. So again, this is not about that. The angle to me that is interesting from our view is the way this was all framed when it ended in St. Louis. Because the framing from the public, a lot of it, and you've seen it, you've had it thrown at you, I've had it thrown at me, was, oh, well, the Cardinals can't take a little pushback. They're sensitive, so they fired the manager. Well, it turns out the manager was rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, including people on his coaching staff.
Yeah.
And you do need to be accountable for all of your actions, not just the good ones. And I got to give Mike Shildt credit because he acknowledged it in the story when he talked to Kevin Acee. He didn't hide from any of it, and he didn't deny any of it.
But does he realize that you can't do things that way? That would be the next thing. And that's where it doesn't feel like there's...
So, yeah.
It doesn't matter almost what manager you are in Major League Baseball. If you have a mutiny from your coaching staff and they all want to quit, and I don't know the number of Cardinals coaches.
they said multiple coaches. Yeah.
So if you're in that situation, you're in the wrong. You're treating them in a way that they cannot be treated. And this is not a case of us living in a world where we can't take criticism.
No.
The sports is a big boy world, and everybody's held accountable, including coaches. Being held accountable and being treated in a way where you want to walk out the door is different. There is nobody in this world, Kevin, that is more accepting of criticism than athletes, because athletes
every day
criticize themselves more than most anybody else can. So most of these coaches are former athletes. That's who they are.
Yeah.
So if the manager comes to the hitting coach and says, look, you're doing something that we don't like, let's have a conversation about this, that generally, more often than not, that hitting coach or that pitching coach or whoever isn't going to be offended by that. It's going to be, let's get in a bunker together and work this thing out and figure out what the best way to go is. The fact that Shildt's coaching staff in two different places, it hasn't been let's work together to get this fixed. It's, oh my God, I can't believe I'm being talked to this way. That is a problem.
Yeah, and it's a problem that Mike seemed to acknowledge, because he basically said, look, I hold people to a high standard. I won't apologize for that. He never said that didn't happen. He never said this isn't true. And again, I think it's important to point out that he also did his job very well, and he got a lot out of his teams.
Yeah.
So it's not about his imperfections, because I think that's how I would phrase it, right? It's not about calling him a bad guy. It's just about he's imperfect. But to me, it was interesting how the narrative here from the public was immediately Cardinals front office are the bad guys, and they're the only bad guys. Poor Mike Schilt. Well, it turns out that maybe this was more 50-50. Because, look, we know the front office had a role in the problems. We know that the front office built the rosters that have not been good enough. So it's not about an exoneration of them. It's just to point out that there's always more than you think there is, and you can't make anything simple when you're analyzing a move like that. This wasn't because he spoke up in one meeting and somebody got offended. Right. This was a pattern of behavior that extended beyond that one meeting, but maybe that one day of meetings that we've talked about here, that the day that ended his time, that probably was more of a last straw than the incident.
I also think it's worth noting that in the story, it says that the Padres were going to specifically work with him. They were going to bring people in to work with him to help him to do, with interpersonal communication and things like that. I don't know this for sure, but I would bet that's one of the things that pushed Schilt out, that he's sitting there going, I'm not going to do this. No, that I am who I am, and this is what I'm going to do. So we're like in New York with the Mets, where Carlos Mendoza is told, hey, you don't have this whole entire coaching staff you have. We're changing things. You can take it or leave it. He took it. Yeah. He's going to do what David Stearns and the Mets say that they need to do. Whereas seemingly in San Diego, when they go to him, say, there are things that have to change, he didn't want to change those things. He walks out the door.
And he said it the way he's quoted in the story is saying part of the reason he's leaving is because he realizes he can't please everybody, which is a little bit of a deflection because you can change. But again, not about saying Mike's a bad guy. He's not. He's a good guy, and he's a damn good manager. And I hope he finds another role in the sport. He says he doesn't want to manage again. Yeah. I hope he finds another job in baseball because he's really smart and he does that. And it's interesting. Cole Bassett's left foot for a lot of the chat today has been acting like Mike's PR man. But this is actually a good question from Cole Bassett's left foot. Said, were Schilt supporters or former players offered the opportunity for counter perspectives? Yeah, they're all over the story. And they all said, we got along with him, but these things did happen. I mean, some of the coaches that were on the staffs that he did get along with, that he did not berate, said, hey, we were good, but yes, that happened. Mm-hmm. I saw it. So it's not, and he had the chance to say this didn't happen, and he didn't say that. He did not say this did not happen. He had every opportunity to tell Kevin Acee that. And again, I don't want to go too much more into that because I don't want it to be about just bagging a good baseball man who has a flaw. Everybody has a flaw. Tony La Russa had flaws. Yeah. Everybody does. And this is his. And it's just to point out that when you think there's only one bad guy or when you think there's only one thing contributing to an issue, you're oversimplifying.
Yes.
The Cardinals situation with Mike Schilt and that relationship ending wasn't just about Mo's ego, the DeWitt's not liking what he was saying, somebody in the front office not liking. It was way bigger than that. And when people on your own staff who are lifelong coaches, former players, established baseball people in their own right, if they feel like they're being disrespected, that's a problem.
It is.
Right? Mm-hmm. I mean, if your bosses were your boss and they talk to you in a way like that, you might not appreciate it.
We've all had situations.
I know, that's
like
my point. We all have that, right? So again, I would say if you want to read the article, that's a great idea because it's very long. We can't sum it all up. But all it is just perspective to me.
I would agree.
It's just saying, hey, there was more to what happened here than the way the public perceived it. That's that. All right, a couple other baseball topics plus more of your feedback coming up. It is Rush Hour Sports on KMOX.
Because we have lawyers in all 50 states, I see lots of lawyers' ads.
Airport Road slow. South 170 stop and go from almost Olive down to 64. Westbound 64 Boyle out to McCaughlin's backed up. Lindbergh to Ballas is slow. Clarkson to the Boone Bridge is heavy. 94 most of the way to Winghaven, and 364 out to 70. It's a lot of volume. South and North 270 between Olive and Manchester congested. Southbound jams, though, south of Page to Olive, and southbound continues to be busy. 44 down through Tesson Ferry. Southbound 55 Arsenal down through Bates. You've got delays at that location as well. And eastbound 270 still slow east of Lilac across the chain rocks from an earlier crash. Chances are you have a lot of people who depend on you, your family, maybe even employees. Life insurance from Penn Mutual can provide you peace of mind and protect the most important people in your life. Ask your independent advisor or go to pennmutual.com/STL. I'm Roger Brand at the michaelsflooringoutlet.com Traffic Center.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
That's Rush Hour Sports on KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Moving on to other. This is a little bit bigger than just baseball, but it's a baseball story to me, and because it's a narrative that's coming out of the postseason, or it's at least something that builds out of the postseason with the Dodgers. All right, the Dodgers have won their division now 12 of the last 13 years. They've been in the playoffs 13 straight years. They have won World Series in that time, and they have a chance to make it back-to-back World Series. It would be the first back-to-back World Series in 25 years. In Major League Baseball. It is very close to being a dynasty. I think you're probably another title or two from being a dynasty.
Yeah.
Right? Because the Braves had this same kind of run in the 90s. I don't remember that being called bad for baseball.
No.
So what's interesting to me,
they didn't win that many.
They won one World Series, but they won their division every year for like 12 years.
Yeah.
So a similar run. One championship with a lot of postseason appearances and a lot of division championships.
I have a hard time calling anything a dynasty that doesn't include multiple championships.
Totally agree.
Okay.
But that hasn't changed the conversation about the way people are perceiving the Dodgers as this existential threat to baseball. So why are dynasties an existential threat to the sport now when the history of the sport is literally built on dynasties? The Yankees have had multiple dynasties. It did not damage the sport. The Cardinals had a dynasty in the 40s. It did not damage the sport. The Braves had their run. The Yankees had their run in the 90s and early 2000s. None of these things damaged the sport. The Astros had a run. The Giants had those are dynasties, multiple championships and a lot of playoff appearances. None of them have been existential threats to the sport, but now the Dodgers are.
Yeah, I think it's an easy answer, Kevin. I think it has to do with the fact that when you talk about most of those other teams, you look at it as a fair, even playing ground, and they emerged in dynastic form, whereas people view the Dodgers having advantages that other teams do not have. So therefore, it is a purchased dynasty, not an earned dynasty. I'm not saying that's correct. I'm not saying I agree with that, but that's the feeling behind it. Where if it's not the let's say,
but that's how the Yankees dynasty was built.
Okay.
All of them. They bought Babe Ruth. They literally purchased Babe Ruth.
Okay, go out and ask your average baseball fan about the finances of the Yankees of yesteryear. Like,
this is kind of the point, though, is that just because it's happening now doesn't mean it's bad.
So maybe we look at this in 30 years and look at the Dodgers differently than we look at them right now. I think if it was the Brewers that we were talking about, it would be viewed completely differently. They would be lifted up because here they are, a small market spending very little money, and they're going out and they're winning the World Series. Like, that would be viewed differently than how the Dodgers are.
Yeah, and I'd tell you this. Most sports have been built on dynasties. What are all the legends in the NBA? Auerbach Celtics, Jordan's Bulls, Magic's Lakers. They're dynasties. The NFL is loaded with dynasties. The Cowboys, the Patriots. It's the Chiefs now are a dynasty. So my point is not that people should like that the Dodgers can just go buy everything, because I hate that. And I think in the next CBA, they need to fix this. There needs to be an international draft, so they no longer get the big benefit from just being on the West Coast and being the famous team on the West Coast where people can make a lot of money off the field, even though they can't make a lot of money on the field. There need to be more restrictions in place, to me, on deferred money, because you shouldn't be able to pay Ohtani $70 million a year AAV, but only have 20 of it count towards the luxury tax. Like, that's all nonsense. I agree. But there's no sign of that being an existential threat to the sport, because revenues and ratings are going up.
Yeah, I think
ticket sales are going up. Everything's going up. It's not a threat to the sport.
Yeah, I think it's two different conversations that we're having. Like all these things that you just mentioned that need to be better. Yes, they need to be better. I don't think people even look at dynasties as being a threat to the sport. I just think they look at it as the Dodgers are benefiting in a way that other teams in baseball can't benefit in the same way. So you're upset about it.
Yeah, I agree with the criticisms about the baseball structure. I don't understand why it becomes this crisis. It's not a crisis. It does suck, and it needs to be fixed, and the CBA is up after one more year. So hopefully everybody involved will try to trim away some of that advantage. Maybe it's by making them share more revenue. So if you make the Dodgers and Yankees and Red Sox and the Mets and those big market teams share more revenue, they won't be willing to go as far because there'll be less left over at the end of the day. There are a lot of ways to do these things. They are all necessary. But the history of sports, the legends of sport are all built on dynasties.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's running away from that.
Yeah.
And again, I think I wasn't living in most of those times. So, I mean, I was living for the Patriots dynasty. I don't think anybody thought that the only issue that people took with the Patriots was that you had one of the all-time quarterbacks, maybe the best quarterback of all time, taking very little money to make sure that the rest of the team could be stacked. People didn't like that, but that was the only thing about, other than people not liking Brady and Belichick.
Yeah.
Nobody was worried about this having a long-term negative. I don't think people look at the Chiefs right now in that way.
Right.
But again, that's the even playing field. The NFL does everything to keep things as even as possible.
Sure, but the problem there is if you have one guy, you have a dynasty. If you have the quarterback, you have a chance at a dynasty. That doesn't exist in baseball. And for all the Dodgers' success, there are tons of these teams that have spent a lot of money and won nothing. The Mets missed the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, like they win the offseason every year, and they spent just as much money as the Dodgers, and they're not even in the playoffs.
And let's not forget, it wasn't that long ago that the Dodgers were spending all this money and not having postseason success.
That's right. That's right.
So it doesn't guarantee you, but it looks like the Dodgers are the favorite to win the World Series this year. They're going to probably win this series against the Brewers. It would take an amazing comeback from Milwaukee. And then whether they're facing off against probably Seattle or Toronto, they're going to be the favorite in that series as well. We are likely going to see a Dodgers World Championship this year.
I'm rooting for Seattle.
Okay.
Let's go Mariners. I'd love to see nothing against the Blue Jays, but the Mariners haven't won before, so I'd love to see a new team win it.
My love language is wanting to see my friends' teams do well. Like I went to school at Kansas State.
Yeah.
So I kind of root for a lot of Kansas City teams because my best friends from college are all Kansas City sports fans.
Yep.
So my the principal at my daughter's school is a big Seattle fan. You're a big Detroit fan. So I was very torn on that one because I talked to each of you guys.
Yeah.
So I am also rooting for Seattle here on behalf of my daughter's principal.
All right. That's Matt Pauley. I'm Kevin Wheeler. More baseball coming up next. And it's a simple question. You guys ponder this during the news. Why do people who follow baseball believe in fairy tales? I'll explain what I mean coming up next on KMOX.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit?
Boone Bridge, it's bogged down. West of K, midway out to Winghaven, slow. And Lake St. Louis Boulevard out to 70, heavy. South 270, delay south of 364 both ways between Olive and Clayton Road, heavy. The southbound side remains slow to Doherty Ferry, and again 44 to Gravois. South 170, delays at Delmar. Eastbound 64, Blues game traffic, Lindbergh, all the way into Big Bend right now. Southbound 55, Arsenal through Bates. You've got congestion there. Westbound 44, heavy past the bridges. In a world of cookie-cutter health plans, the Pauley Agency is proud to represent coverage that's tailor-made to fit your needs. The Pauley Agency puts the sure in insurance. For a free quote, call 636-222-2149. That's 636-222-2149. I'm Roger Brand in the Michaels Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
Rush Hour Sports continues on 104.1 FM, KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports on KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you here. Sports Open Line after the 6 o'clock news. What do we got for a tease here today, buddy?
Yeah, we've got, we are going to have a few people on. Bernie Miklasz will join us at 6:20 today. We'll talk some MLS soccer in St. Louis City at 6:35. We got a few other things. We'll talk Mizzou football with Howard Richards today during the 7 o'clock
tell
hour.
Howard I said hi, man. I love Howard.
He is the best. He is the absolute best. So a lot going on during the program tonight.
That's cool.
We'll play back audio from Jim Montgomery leading tonight's late night Blues game.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, good deal. Looking forward to it. They played better lately. Looking forward to seeing how. Man, the volume on my volume thing is not working.
Well, you need headphones that the audio doesn't just come.
My volume is all the way down and it's doing that. I don't know what the heck's happening.
That's not good.
No, I gotta. What the hell? This is not great. I just got to unplug them. I can't do it because it's all the way down and it's giving feedback. Anyway, nobody cares. All right, so let's get back to this next part.
As you still wear the headphones.
I know, I still got them on because I'm going to plug them back in a second to see if it works. So I saw a thread earlier today that made me laugh, and people are. This is a conversation that talks about like pitcher velocity and how hard guys throw now compared to how hard guys used to throw, and there's still this weird community of people that think that guys used to throw as hard back in the day as they do now. And they think the only thing that's changed is the radar guns and the way that measurements are done. And those are better. I mean, there's no question that's better. But I saw one of the comments on this thread about it made me laugh. This guy pointed out, he said, look, every other sport continuously breaks new records as technology allows humans to become faster and stronger than they've ever been before. But for some reason, the physical abilities of baseball players peaked in the 70s and 80s when they smoked and drank and barely worked out. I could not identify with that more. We believe these fairy tales, and I don't know why. Why do we believe that 5'10", 185-pound Mickey Mantle hit 550-foot home runs? Why would I believe that when I watch Aaron Judge at 6'7", 270, one of the strongest players ever to play the game, never hit a ball more than 500 feet? It's why do we believe these weird tales? I get it. I know they were told back in the day, but back then people were guessing at velocity. You know how they used to measure velocity? They had Bob Feller throw against a guy riding a motorcycle next to him throwing it. That's how they did it. They paced off the home run distance. They didn't actually have a real GPS measurement of it. So I get why the stories originated. What I don't get is why we still buy it.
Yeah, and this is not to denigrate anybody in the past either. Most of these guys, if they would have had the same resources that are available now, they would have taken advantage.
100%.
I have no doubt that Bob Gibson would be just as dominant in today's game as he would have been in yesteryear, but he would have been even better. Think if Bob Gibson would have had all the technology and all the information about training and everything that goes along with it.
Sleep, nutrition, you name it.
Yeah, he would have been that much better. So it's this is not to say they were not as good. It was that it was a different time.
Yeah.
So the end results were different than what the end results are right now.
And in a lot of ways, they were better. I mean, Babe Ruth, to me, is still the greatest slugger of all time because he changed the sport.
Right.
Isn't that enough? Do we have to believe the fairy tale that the guy who never picked up a weight in his life was hitting the ball further than guys do now?
Nobody hit home runs before Babe Ruth.
No, I know. That's my point.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him the greatest of all time to me, because he's the guy that changed the game. He made home runs a thing, and it's been a thing for the last 100 years because of Babe Ruth.
Yeah, very few sports have been changed that way, that dramatically by one single individual.
Amen.
Generally, there's a there's like an evolution, a slow evolution to it.
Right.
And that
was
all
a
of
light
a sudden
switch.
it was, okay, home runs are a thing.
Yeah, that was a light switch turning on with a guy out homering entire teams. Because I get why former players tend to lean this way. Not all of them, but a number of them, because it kind of raises their level up from their time, right? There are a bunch of former big leaguers who don't like anything new, and they're on Twitter and they make a lot of noise. But then you've got other guys like Brent Rooker, who's a current player, and other guys like that are like, come on, man. We get what you're doing here. You're just trying to make it sound like it was better when you were playing because that makes you seem better. But it doesn't have to be that, because the only thing a player can be is the best of their time, because they're not playing in the past and they're not playing in the future. All you can be is the best of the people you're facing.
Yeah, and the only thing that ever frustrates, like I get it, like you just said, when guys want to lift up the way the game was when they played, I don't always agree with it, but I at least understand it.
Yeah.
Where I get frustrated is guys did a certain thing when they played that was actually modern, and now that they're not playing anymore, they lift up some other old school version of the game that they didn't actually do when they played.
Yeah.
That's what frustrates me.
My favorites are the ones that they don't even realize what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like Alex Rodriguez swears that he used to hit down on the ball. Brother, you can't hit it in the air if you're hitting down on it. And he hit a lot of home runs, man. I mean, you may have thought that.
Mm-hmm.
It may have felt that way to you when you were swinging, like it maybe put you in the right place. But when you hit the ball, you were coming up on it.
I mean,
you were elevating the baseball.
There's the occasional swing where you kind of get under it, so there's a downward plane and you get that backspin on it. But I still don't think that's hitting down on the ball.
No, it's not, because you every swing is an arc,
right?
And you're hitting the ball out in front of you. By the time your bat is getting out in front of you, it is on a natural incline, right?
Yeah,
it has to be.
Yeah,
because you're and you think about the plane of the pitch. The pitch is coming from high to low. You have to match that to make quality contact. If you don't, you're never going to barrel a ball. If your swing is flat and the pitch is coming down, there's only a tiny amount of space where those two things will intersect. When you match the plane of the pitch, you actually have like 3 feet of area where you can make contact instead of 3 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just physics. It's just common sense. But guys will swear that they did something that they absolutely did not do. And it's just really weird. In Alex's case, and I don't hate A-Rod, but A-Rod's not the brightest guy out there. He just isn't.
Okay.
He's a great player, not the brightest guy. And some of his judgments, like using PEDs, probably enlighten us.
I also think some of when you were at that level, like the Alex Rodriguez and the Derek Jeters of the world, these guys are like moguls now. They've got so much going on. They don't watch the game on an everyday basis.
Not enough.
Yet because they're big names, they end up on these big shows during the postseason, as opposed to like the analysts that we see
that are good
on the local broadcast and during the season.
Yeah.
People who are in on the game on an everyday basis.
You can tell they just jump in.
Yeah.
All right, real quick, we're going to talk about Gold Gloves next. So Cardinals have 2 Gold Glove finalists. Victor Scott the second, Mason Wynn. Do they both win? Does one win? Does one win the Platinum Glove? We'll get into all that coming up next on KMOX.
Protect your liver and give it the support it deserves by making
67. You've got delays. Westbound 70 still backed up Riverview out through Jennings Station because of a recent stall, and it's just slow approaching 61. I'm Roger Brand in the Michael's Flooring Outlet.com Traffic Center.
This is Rush Hour Sports on 104.1 FM KMOX.
All right, Rush Hour Sports here on KMOX. Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler with you for a few more minutes. Let's talk Gold Gloves, man. So the Cardinals have, no surprise, 2 Gold Glove Award finalists. Victor Scott II in center field, Mason Wynn at shortstop. Hedge bets. Which one is? I think Mason Wynn's going to win the Gold Glove.
I do too.
I think he might win the Platinum Glove for the best defender.
Some
in the
voters
sport.
will ding him for games played.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
I completely agree, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I get it because I think that's part of why Victor Scott's not going to get it. Because he didn't play as much as PCA. He didn't play as much as, well, he probably did play about as much as Young in
Well, the defensive
Washington.
metrics don't stand up to some of those guys.
No, PCA ranks better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was 3rd among Major League Baseball center fielders and outs above average.
Yep.
So, I mean, obviously that's elite. That's really, really good. But when you're talking about the best of the best, only one guy can win in each league. He's just I think he's a step off some of these other guys where Wynn is not a step off. And he had 18 errors last year. He had 3 errors this year. What a remarkable thing for him to do the work that he needed to do.
Yeah.
To already go from an elite shortstop. He was a Gold Glove finalist last year.
Yeah.
To have that kind of improvement from one year to the next really says something about him.
Totally agree. And I mean, to me, Wynn is the best combination of all things defensively, right? So when you have the kind of range that he does, because he has exceptional range, not one shortstop in the sport had better range this year than him. And when you have range and only 3 errors,
and can throw the ball harder than basically.
So a lot of guys have low error totals because they don't get to anything.
Right. Yeah.
The ball is a base hit because it gets through. Wynn gets to everything and makes the play. And then when you take the advanced things, outs above average, when you look at fielding run value being in the top 2% of all major league players, I mean, I get the only argument would be some of the games missed, but he still, ended up with 537 plate appearances, which is not the criteria for defense, but it shows you how much you played.
501 chances defensively.
Right. So I think he's got enough where he should win the Gold Glove pretty easily.
I hope so. I hope it's an easy win because he deserves it.
Yeah. And now with Victor Scott, he's a great outfielder, but I think it's very clear that PCA is better, and I think Young might be better too. But it's not far. Victor Scott's in the conversation, but I just don't think he played enough, especially in the second half. And PCA as you point out, he ranks better. He just does.
Yeah. When you're talking about just one guy who can win it, then you look at who was the absolute
My
best.
vote would be PCA.
Mine would be too.
And my vote at shortstop would be Mason Wynn.
Yep.
And I'm not sure there was a better defensive player in the National League than Mason Wynn this year.
No. And I mean, for him, he led all of baseball in fielding percentage, right?
Yeah.
You do that as a shortstop, the hardest defensive position on the field.
Second hardest.
Okay, catcher. And you do that. I mean, that is remarkable.
I can never get that out of it. And by the way, Cal Raleigh better be the American League MVP.
I agree.
I mean, 60 home runs, and you're back there. He caught almost 18,000 pitches this year, which means he called 18,000 pitches, which means you're in the game planning, you're in the pitchers' meetings. All Aaron Judge has to do is catch 4 fly balls a game.
I mean, I don't know what did a great Aaron Judge.
No, I'm teasing. That part's joking. Yeah. Aaron Judge is amazing, and he was the best hitter in baseball.
Yeah,
Aaron Judge was the best hitter in baseball.
Yes, he was. And in most years, what he did this year would win you an MVP.
Yes. But when you have a 60 homer catcher who's also a Gold Glover, and I think maybe even a Platinum Glove,
and a switch hitter,
and a switch hitter,
he's a switch hitter doing that.
Yeah, I think he should be the MVP. Hopefully, we won't have the New York bias on that one.
Hope so.
All right, buddy. Have a good show tonight.
Thank you.
Have fun. You got 2 hours of Sports Open Line coming up. Bernie Miklasz at 6:20 coming up right after the 6 o'clock news. We'll be back tomorrow. Actually, you won't be here tomorrow.
No.
I'll be back here tomorrow doing this, and then it'll be the 3 of us on Friday, you and me and Bernie Miklasz doing our regular Friday, doing some college football, some baseball stuff that'll come up, and I think some Blues too. And the Blues play later on tonight. So everybody have a great night. Sports Open Line next on KMOX.
Hi, this is Charlie Brennan. I see clearly now thanks to the doctors, Greg
This is a busy program today. We are going to be joined in about 10 minutes by our good friend Bernie Miklasz. We're going to dive in to the Mike Shildt stuff, which I'll talk about a little bit in just a moment. Giovanni Savarese from Apple TV will talk all things City SC with us at 6:35. We're going to be joined coming up next hour, just after the 7 o'clock news, by Howard Richard. We'll talk Mizzou football with him. And then about 7:35, we'll hear from Katie Shields, the head women's soccer coach at St. Louis University. They have a huge matchup that's going to be coming up tomorrow night at Herman Stadium. So that's what we have from a guest perspective. We'll also hear from Jim Montgomery, play back some of what he had to say earlier today. Blues have a late one. The matchup tonight is going to have a puck drop of 8:52. It is officially billed as 8:30, but it's going to have a puck drop of 8:52 tonight. If you've got tickets and you're going and it's 8:35 and you're in your seats and you're going, why in the world haven't they started the game yet? Well, because it's not going to be 8:52 yet. That's going to be your puck drop time tonight, 8:52 over at the Enterprise Center. Nothing like a 9 o'clock start on a school night for some hockey. But you know what? Such is life when you have national TV contracts, and that's what's going to be going on this evening. Again, if you want to chime in, multiple ways to get connected. You can call or text 314-436-7900, 314-436-7900. You can tweet at me, at Matt Pauley on air, MattPauley on air, or you can send in a text at or you can send in a video chat on a video stream. If you're watching us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, you can leave a comment in the chat, and we will address some of those as we go along with the program tonight. I would encourage everybody out there to go read the Kevin Acee story from the San Diego Union Tribune, as it's a long story. Have a little bit of time. It's not a quick read. It's not a short read. It takes a little bit of time, but it has not very often does a newspaper article from another city kind of dictate the sports narrative in St. Louis. But that is indeed the case today, as the Mike Shildt story continues to move forward. If you were with me on, it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday that it was announced that Shildt had retired. If you were listening to this very show, you heard me say, just wait. There's going to be more details about this that start to leak out, that start to come out. It might take a little bit of time, but this isn't the whole story, and more details about the story will come out at some point in time. Now, to be fair and to be honest and forthright, I didn't think that meant that we were going to start hearing stuff within a day or two. I thought that was going to be one of those things that as the months and maybe even the years went by, all of a sudden little tidbits about Shildt's tenure in San Diego would start to come out. Well, it took about 2 days, not even 2 days, day and a half for a lot of stuff to come out. And this is how it works when how do I say this? The Padres planted the story. Not that it's not true, but this is, to me, I firmly and truly believe that people in the Padres organization wanted written what was in the newspaper in San Diego today. I have zero doubt whatsoever that this was something that was put out there very purposefully. And it wasn't just the newspaper in San Diego. John Heyman, Baseball Insider, New York Post, he wrote something that broke last night that was kind of the first part of this. And then the San Diego story came out there, shortly thereafter. This is how it works. AJ Preller can go do a nice little video conference with the media that's, public information, and can have platitudes and say all these nice things and just kind of go from there. But I think the Padres wanted to explain this situation and this story a little bit more. I don't have time to get into it right now, but I think it's important to compare notes on Mike Shildt walking out the door in St. Louis and Mike Shildt walking out the door in San Diego. Because in many ways, John Mozeliak, to his credit, fell on the sword when it came to Shildt. The story today in San Diego makes reference to some of the things that were going down in St. Louis with Shildt and his coaching staff. Same things going on in San Diego, and things that he did not deny when being quoted for this story. The Cardinals didn't do this. The Cardinals didn't go to Derek Gould or Katie Woo or John Denton or John Heyman or anybody else and start planting stories. They would not, from a public standpoint, they would not comment beyond philosophical differences. And outside of some reporting by Bernie Miklasz, who's going to join us in about 5 minutes, it was information that was largely not talked about on why it ended in St. Louis for Mike Shildt. And that's the Cardinals organization being classy. That's the Cardinals organization holding themselves to a higher standard and letting somebody who was a huge part of the organization and did a really good job managing the club, even if there were some other things going on, allowing him to walk out the door, head held high. Mike Shildt was easily able to get another managerial job post St. Louis because he wasn't dragged through the mud. That's what the Cardinals did for him. And Shildt says he never wants to manage again. I don't know if he can come back from this in the first place. There are some very damning things about the way he treats other people. And again, over and over, this doesn't mean Shilt's a bad guy. This certainly doesn't mean he's not a good manager. He's a heck of a manager. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have great relationships and cares about people and tries to make people better. And even sometimes when he's having these uncomfortable kind of conversations, that it doesn't mean that he's not actually making them better in the moment, but there's a better way to do it. And some of the details that are coming out, we're starting to get a little bit more of that. We'll talk more about that with Bernie Miklasz. He joins us in just a moment or so. Don't go anywhere. It's Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Ooh, ma. What was that? That is business phone
Check us out online at fairwindsriversedge.com. We hope to talk with you soon.
You asked, we delivered. KMOX, now on FM. Crystal clear sound at 104.1 FM.
Welcome back in. It's a Great Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. We have reached that time of the week, one of my favorite segments that we do every week. We welcome in our good friend Bernie Miklasz. Of course, you see him doing all kinds of stuff over at STL Sports Central from a written and video standpoint, and he's all over here at KMOX, whether it's Gas House Gang, Sports on a Sunday morning, Rush Hour Sports, and here on Sports Open Line. Bernie, always appreciate you taking some time. How are you?
It's always fun to work with you. I'm good, Matt.
I've been thinking a lot about something that you said a couple days ago when we were doing Rush Hour Sports, because you talked openly about the fact that when Mike Shildt left the Cardinals, he had issues with his coaching staff. And then today there is a story out of San Diego that basically said he had issues with his coaching staff in San Diego. And, oh, yeah, by the way, he had issues in St. Louis as well. And the social media reaction today has been like, well, that's the first time we've heard that. And all I could think to myself was, well, then you guys aren't paying attention to Bernie.
Yeah, I don't even know how to talk about that, because at the latest, it was the day after, the morning after Shildt was fired by the Cardinals, and I reported it had to do with the fact that there's incredible dissension on the coaching staff, and a number of coaches felt that he was being abusive and disrespectful and just and berating them, embarrassing him all the time, and they were just kind of fed up with it. And so John Mozeliak tried to kind of smooth it all out and talk to Shildt about, listen, you can't do that, you can't do this. This just isn't how it works. I mean, it's and Shildt basically had an attitude, and he said, well, I'm going to fire them all, or something to that effect. And Mozeliak said, no, you're not going to do that. We're going to talk about this and figure it out. Our emotions are high. It's all good. But Shildt just wouldn't budge. And I've said this, gosh, I can't even count how many times I've said it. It's like, Mike Shildt at that point decided somehow that he was in charge of everything. And it doesn't work like that. Now, people who hate John Mozeliak would tell you, well, everybody should be ahead of John Mozeliak. I don't blame Shildt. No, that's not how it works. Nowhere does that work in Major League Baseball. So, and I was the only one that actually pulled back the curtain on what was going on, and I wrote about it a lot, talked about it a lot on the radio, and it always kind of confused me that basically people didn't just completely disregarded it. And it's one of those things when you're a reporter, you're a writer, and through the years broken so many stories. Not as much now because I'm not a direct reporter now, but I was always kind of confused why the stuff I reported, which was right on the money, just never got much traction. Was it because I wasn't working for the Post-Dispatch then? It's because you couldn't hear me regularly on KMOX, and I don't mean that sarcastically, because KMOX has that kind of influence. So it was really, really strange. I was like the guy all these years in the corner, waving my hands. Well, hold on now. Don't be saying no one looked into this. I got a lot. I got a lot of information out there to you. All you chose to ignore it. So when all this started coming out, it didn't give me any pleasure, but I have to admit, and I'm sorry to sound this way, but I'm just sort of laughing at all this. People are shocked, I tell you. Really? Okay.
I don't want to make John Mozeliak out to be the patron saint of graciousness or classiness or anything here, but when I compare the two situations in San Diego, 15 minutes had gone by and all of a sudden John Heyman's writing about this, the guy in San Diego. Clearly this story was very much planted by the San Diego folks to try to get this out there. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from what you're reporting at the time, but very different in terms of details and almost like the knives that have come out of San Diego compared to what happened in St. Louis. And John Mozeliak has taken a lot of grief over the last few years about Mike Shildt being fired. And Mike Shildt's name has been used so often in criticisms of Mo and criticisms of Ali. And it would have been so easy for the Cardinals to speak a little bit more openly or try to plant more stories with people on what went down. And the Cardinals never did that, where the Padres obviously are. And I think it's worth noting.
I totally agree. You know, when Kevin Acee of the San Diego Union Tribune, who's outstanding, he did so much great reporting, and he reported stuff that happened in St. Louis that I was unaware of. I mean, Kevin Acee, to his eternal credit, advanced the story, but he's doing it from San Diego rather than St. Louis. I figured I had done all that I could to get that story out when it came out as it happened. But I agree with what you said. I did a follow-up video because I wanted to include the Kevin Acee stuff because it was pretty amazing stuff. And one of the things I said in the video is I said, you know, I forgot how I phrased it. You know, I don't know. I don't think people have to owe John Mozeliak an apology, but they should now look back and be adults and be reasonable and realize, you know, John Mozeliak could have crushed Mike Shildt. Clearly, what the stuff with Shildt here was so bad that you had basically a mutiny on the coaching staff and other people who weren't necessarily based in the baseball department because they were treated so poorly by Shildt. John Mozeliak could have covered his own backside by just if not doing it that day, but just coming back 2 weeks later and putting all the dirt out there and everything. But he didn't do that. You know why? He was the guy who brought Shildt into the Cardinals organization from day one, and he moved him up the ladder. He made him a major league coach, made minor league manager, major league coach, bench coach, then the manager. They had a really strong bond, and John Mozeliak believed in him. But John Mozeliak, just after seeing all of the craziness going on here behind the scenes, he just knew he had to make a change. You can't have a manager giving ultimatums and acting like he's the boss. But the damage that he could have done to Mike Shildt, in effect, to see that it would be really, really, really difficult for Mike Shildt to ever get another managing job again. If John Mozeliak put that dirt out there, even kind of, on background. John Mozeliak didn't do that. He took the high road. And it just amazes. And you know what? And Shildt was very happy to play the martyr role after that. Kind of a woe is me. Oh, I'm heartbroken. I'm devastated. Oh, my gosh, this is one of the I don't know how I can get over it. I mean, he really played the role of victim, to an Academy Award level of performance. And the more that I look back on that, the more I'm thinking, you know what? Shame on you, man. Just shame on you. And John Mozeliak's popularity, which wasn't exactly booming, really suffered because Mike Shildt was able to spin himself into this role of the martyr who was wronged by John Mozeliak. And I am just so tired of people hating on Mozeliak for stuff he's not guilty of, is what I'm trying to say. We can criticize his baseball mistakes all that you want, but the pettiness and the smallness and the constant hate, it's really embarrassing. It really is absolutely embarrassing.
We say all that, and I think we both agree. Mike Shildt's a very good major league manager. There's no doubt about that. We appreciate what he did with the Cardinals. I think Padres fans appreciate what they did there. I look at him though, and I just look really from the moment he lost the job in St. Louis. And I've heard you talk about this a little bit. Loses that job. We know how much that job and how much the Cardinals organization means to him. He got married. Evidently, he has since been divorced in that time. Goes to the Padres, has all this stuff going on with San Diego. The reporting said that they were going to try to get with him and try to work with him on how he needs to deal with others. There's just been so much strife, seemingly, in both his personal and baseball life over the last few years. I'm hopeful for him that just going home and taking a little bit of pressure off can help him get centered. I don't say that to be facetious. From a human standpoint and somebody who plays a large role in the history of the St. Louis Cardinals, I really hope that this is going to be an opportunity for him to find some peace.
Here's what surprised me. That was a traumatic thing he went through in St. Louis because that was his dream job, right? He was a lifelong Cardinal. He revered the birds on the bat, but he got a little full of himself, little success go to his head. By the way, that happens. But the thing that I would have expected from Shildt, I would have bet a lot of money on this, that he would reflect and realize he lost his cool. Maybe his head got too big. Maybe he was treating others poorly. Maybe he just needs to reflect on that and recognize, I got to change some things. I get another shot at this. I got to do it differently. I would have bet my house that that's what he would have done. And instead, I just can't believe it. He took the San Diego job and basically did the same dang thing all over again. He learned nothing from all of that pain in St. Louis. And that's really strange to me. And I hope he can find peace, because this is really abnormal stuff. Everybody gets fired. Everybody loses a job because they either didn't do their job well, or they had these constant tantrums and coworkers were complaining. And so, you just move someone out. Everybody goes through that on some level. That doesn't make Mike Schilt a bad person at all, but I can't believe he didn't have the wherewithal to look hard within himself and make the changes he needed to change. So it wouldn't happen to him again if he got another opportunity. And this time around, he lasted only 2 years. It's just, what a shame.
He is our good friend, Bernie Miklasz. Bernie, before we get you out of here, can you share with us a little information about some of our other friends over at Saliga?
The timing's right, because today, Saliga Heating and Cooling was paid a visit to the Miklasz home. I have a thing called a mini split, which is in my home office where I do all my work, including for Camo X. And a mini split, it's hard to explain what it is exactly. I mean, I would call it like a mini air conditioner. It's not really that exactly. But if you have a hot spot in your home where you can't get a room cooled off, in this room where I am, the sun beats down on the roof like all day long in the summer, and it can get, even our regular Saliga air conditioning is great. This room just has a hard time fighting off the heat sometimes. So they put in this thing called the mini split, and it's been great. But lately I noticed it's been making weird noises. So I called Saliga. They came by today. They fixed it. They fixed it quickly. We've had it for 10, 11 years. It's going to be good to go for another 10 or 11 years. While they were here, they did the maintenance on the boiler, so they don't have to do it, a couple months from now. And they took care of 2 or 3 other things. I mean, it was like a SWAT team. It didn't take any time at all. And I just remember, Saliga Heating and Cooling. I said, I'm so proud that I talk about them on Camo X, because here we go again. What a great experience working with them in our home, and all they did for me and my wife today. So that's my pitch for today. I mean, I could tell you about all the other things, but I'm just giving you my latest experience with Saliga Heating and Cooling. The same family has owned this business in St. Louis since 1927. And as we learned again today, the highest standards in town for heating and cooling belong to Saliga Heating and Cooling. And go to that site, SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
The Bernie Miklasz Report on KMOX is sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin comfort dealer.
I'm Tom Ackerman with this month's Siteman Cancer Center Spotlight. We are discussing breast
The countdown to kickoff starts here. Friday's focus on Mizzou, the Chiefs, and the NFL, only on KMOX.
It's Great Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. Just one match remaining for City SC. They are going to be back at it coming up this Saturday as they will take on Real Salt Lake. Then their season is over, but there's going to be a lot going on. Still some jockeying for playoff positioning this weekend across MLS for City. The rumor is that they're going to have a sporting director in place by the end of this month. They've got tons of decisions to make on players, not a lot of time to do that. To talk about all that and more, we're very happy to welcome onto the program. He is an analyst with Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. He's going to be in studio on Saturday on MLS 360 watching everything unfold on the final day of the regular season. He is Gio Savarese. Gio, thanks for taking some time with us today. How are you?
It's a pleasure to be in your show and to talk about the St. Louis team and about 360, which is coming this Saturday, in this decision day that we have coming in this weekend.
What's how much fun is that when it's the final day of the regular season, not everything is completely settled, and just watching all the games going along and just assessing what's going to happen and seeing things play out? That's a fun day of the year.
It's definitely a fun day in the year because there's so many things still that can happen. Sometimes teams that might not make the playoffs, some that are going to come in. The positioning in the table is very important. Every team would like to come in the first 4 positions in order for them to have a little bit more advantage at home. So there's going to be a lot of interesting games, and I think a lot of fun. Is always a day in which brings a lot of emotions to the fans and the people that watch the games.
What do you make of what's happening with City right now? Because they've had a good finish to the season. Since September, they've only got one loss. That was a 3-0 loss against LAFC. But outside of that, they've won a lot of games. They've scored a good number of goals. They've scored 2-3 goals in most of these contests. It feels like they're playing their best soccer here at the end of the year. What does that mean for this team moving forward?
I think it's positive. I think it's a good sign when you see a team like City being able to get some very good results. In the past games, in the last 5 games, as you mentioned, only one lost. They have complicated a lot of games to many teams that were looking to try to continue to compete in the table. And at home, these last few games, City has been very, very strong. Unfortunately for the team, they had a very slow start, and that complicated a lot of things for the team in what the expectations were for this season. But now we see a team that is caring a little bit more, that is pushing more, that has the ideas a little more clear. And I think David Klitsch has been able to manage the team in a good way, especially at this last part of the season.
Do you feel like Critchley's done enough to earn an opportunity to be the full-time coach moving forward?
It's not for me to say. I think there's very competent people inside the organization that are going to make that decision. But for what I have seen in the last, few games, I think definitely, he's one that's been very close to the organization.
So they still are looking for a new sporting director. The rumblings around here is that they're going to have somebody in place by the end of this month. So if it's towards the end of the month, they're not going to have a whole lot of time. They've got a lot of guys that they've got to make some contract decisions on in a short amount of time. How tough is that going to be for a new sporting director to walk in and be forced to make all these decisions again in a very short amount of time?
No, I think you have competent people there like Diego Giuliani. I think the ownership has the ideas clear. John Harkleworth as well, being part of the soccer side. I think that is experienced. There's a lot of people that have been in the game for a while, and I'm sure that they're going to find the right direction. And sometimes, you had a great start 2 years ago, and then, you have this year and last year just a little bit of some difficulties. But I do think that the people that you have internally are capable enough to be able to, bring the right sporting director, the right coach, and just lead the team into success. Because it's a great city, it's a great, fan base. I had the fortune with Portland to be able to play 2 times there, and you can feel the energy of the stadium and the city.
What do you remember most about those times that you came into St. Louis?
Just that it was a fun place to be because of the energy of the stadium, how beautiful the stadium is, the facility, the city, how they back, the organization. I mean, there's so much history in that city, and I think they have done a very good job, to make it very difficult for teams to go there. At least, the times that we went there, and I do think that the future. I'm sure that they're going to try to find the right direction in order to continue to keep, the fans happy and the location to keep on making history as they've done in the past.
Mentioned that you're going to be in studio coming up on Saturday as a lot of stuff plays out. What's the storyline or two or the game or two that you're really interested to see how it plays out this weekend?
I think your game is a very interesting one because Salt Lake needs to win. If they win, they're definitely going to make playoffs. Tying, losing for Salt Lake could definitely complicate the situation with Colorado, San Jose, Dallas being part of the, trying to get into playoff in those last spots of the Western Conference. I think that the top part is pretty much, almost done with Vancouver, San Diego, LAFC being at the top. And in the Eastern Conference, I think Philadelphia, Vancouver, Cincinnati had done very well to position themselves in a good situation. Miami continues to show with Messi that they are a very strong team and they're looking to make records. They are defined already pretty much, but it's still some things can happen with Orlando, Chicago, in the bottom part, to see who's going to be able to, with Columbus, have to be playing that playoff game that they have to play. So all of this will be in 360. We're very much looking forward for these games, and I think it's going to be a lot of emotions, into these games.
And of course, even with City not participating in the playoffs, Apple TV and MLS Season Pass is where soccer fans can catch every moment of playoff soccer. Just for people who have not made the plunge yet and maybe want to get involved with MLS Season Pass here for the postseason, it's a great opportunity to watch every single postseason matchup.
Definitely, because especially this decision day is one that we have learned that it gives so many emotions, so many interesting situations, so many games that can change, the future of teams. And so, make sure that whoever can watch it, because I think it would not disappoint for sure.
Gio Savarese, part of the team with Apple TV, MLS Season Pass. He is going to be in the studio for MLS 360 this weekend, watching all the action of Decision Day unfold. Gio, thanks for taking the time. Enjoy the weekend, enjoy the playoffs, and we'll catch up with you again down the line.
It's always a pleasure, and good luck in this coming weekend.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's Gio Savarese joining us on the show. Appreciate him being with us. There's a lot that's still up in the air. 4 Western Conference teams are battling for a single postseason spot at this point in time. Also, 3 Eastern Conference squads can still lock up home field. So, yeah, there's a lot that's going to be going on, and we'll see how everything plays out. I'm just more interested to see what's going to happen here moving forward with City, because there's been some things out there. I think I saw a social media video from Klaus where he basically said, yeah, they haven't talked to me about next year at all yet. We just don't know what's going to happen. And it's really, I know there's competent, capable people in the organization now, but I'm sure they are holding off on most decisions so the new sporting director can come in and start to shape the team that person would like it to be shaped in. But it's going to be a very, very short amount of time for a lot of big decisions. And look, that's life, right? When you're working in professional sports, it's a high pressure field. And sometimes it's high pressure because of the desire to win important games and moments. Sometimes it's high pressure because you're doing a lot of things in a short amount of time. But being able to get this, and this is going to start the path, or it starts the wrong word. I think the path for next year is already being blazed a little bit with what this team has done since the calendar turned to September, where they've kind of found themselves a little bit. That starts things, but how the roster is going to look next year is largely going to be determined by some of these moves that are made in the very short term. I wanted to get this confirmed because I don't know this for sure. I called our good friend Jen Cease during the break. She couldn't pick up. She has since texted me to apologize for not picking up. I need to confirm with her, so I'll try to do that in the next few moments. But I saw something on social media that was attributed to her where City is coming back for training after this matchup this weekend. That's what I saw. I want to before I talk about that, I want to confirm it. But that might also be connected to the new sporting director coming in. And soccer's just weird. Unlike when the baseball season ends, the baseball season is over. When the football season ends, the football season is over. When hockey season ends, the hockey season is over for teams. And there's a little bit of time before you start to ramp up. Soccer is weird because there's such a short off season, and it just feels like the season ends. And the moment the season ends, you're already ramping up for the next season. It's a weird, I think it's a weird thing for North American sports fans to kind of grasp that the way they look at it is just because the season ends, just because games are over for this season doesn't really change anything. The next thing you know is the next game just happens to be in a few months instead of next week or in a few weeks. Anyways, we'll take a break. I'll try to confirm that, and we'll talk about that a little bit. We'll still get back to baseball. We'll talk through. We'll still talk a little bit about Mike Schilt. We'll talk some Mizzou football coming up after the 7 o'clock news. We got a lot to do. It's a Graybar Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
When you want a brand new kitchen, there's
or visit evertrueanywherecare.org.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Starting to wrap up hour number 1 of the program. All right, so I did get some clarification on this. I just talked with Jen Cease, who tomorrow night will have the City Spotlight show after this show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So she'll talk all things City SC coming up on tomorrow evening show. The players, and Kyle Sixt, I'll bring you on this a little bit. The City players are being brought back next week after they play their final match for training or for practice. So they're going to have to go. Now, there seems to be a lot of people are speculating why. Maybe the new sporting director will be in place and there'll be an opportunity for the sporting director to get their eyes on some of these players during training. Maybe a new coach will be in play. Maybe it's just because the season's ending so early that they want to get some extra training. If I was one of those players and the season, a tough season, just wrapped up, and I want to go home and I'm being told I got to come back and I got to go through practice and I'm not even preparing for a game, I'd be so upset.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things about soccer.
Like maybe they just look at it differently than I look at it. Maybe I don't know. I know you can't do the thing where you compare things in soccer to things in other sports, but could you imagine the Cardinal season ending on a Sunday and Monday they're out taking BP at Busch Stadium?
No.
Could you imagine hockey season ends for the Blues and the next day they're out at Centene going through a practice? Like that just doesn't happen. Every once in a while it'll happen in college basketball. A coach will make a point. They'll have a bad game and they'll be brought out like the next day and they'll get just run through the ringer. But that's something that's done for a different reason. This just seems like, yeah, they're just going to go through training, just normal training,
especially when everyone lives like in different parts of the world.
Yes.
Like, it's just so strange. That's the time to go home with your families. I don't know. I'm not a soccer expert.
Maybe I'm a diva. Maybe. I would be this happens every year. They play their second to final match. Then there's an off week and it's connected to some sort of international window or something. I'd be annoyed about that. Get this thing over with. Why are we taking an off week the week before the end of the season? That would be the equivalent of an NFL team having a bye week in week 16.
Right.
That doesn't happen. No. Why are you doing this? Soccer. Why are you doing this? I'm sure there's like soccer people who are listening to me talk right now and are just shaking their head at what they feel as just dumb things that are coming out of my mouth. But if I was them, I would want no business with the off week before the final week. And I definitely would not want to have to come back for training after the season comes to an end. That just seems like something that is absolutely terrible. All right, here's what we got coming up in our second hour of the busy hour, really busy hour. Just after the 7 o'clock news, we are going to be joined by our good friend, Howard Richards. We'll talk through Mizzou football, what to learn from their loss this past weekend. At about 7:20, we will play for you what we heard from Jim Montgomery earlier today. Blues and Blackhawks tonight, 8:52 puck drop over at the Enterprise Center. And then Katie Shields, the head women's soccer coach at St. Louis University, she is going to join us at about 7:35 as we're going to talk through a huge matchup that the Billikens are going to have tomorrow night at Herman Stadium. That's all coming up during the 7 o'clock hour. Don't go anywhere. It's a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Hey guys, this is Kevin Wheeler, and let me ask you something. What if you could be 20 pounds lighter by Christmas?
summer with sun. Right now, it's a clear sky, 76 downtown at the Arch. I'm Michael Calhoun, KMOX News.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
We are back at it as we roll into the 7 o'clock hour. Great to have you with us today. Missouri football coming off their first loss of the season this past weekend. In many ways, they played well, but also a game where I think they can walk out of it and say, maybe they should have won against Alabama, and now they are getting set to play on the road for the first time this season. It's amazing to say that on October 18th. That's going to be Saturday's date. To talk through all that, one of our favorite people to be able to speak with. He is the analyst on Missouri radio broadcast. He is a former Missouri Tiger. He is Howard Richards. You follow him on Twitter at @How_Rich. Howard, thanks for taking some time with us today. How are you?
Good evening, Matt. How are you, sir?
I am good. It's always good to be able to pick your brain on a few things. What was your takeaway on the game this past weekend where I think two things can be true, like I just said. In many ways, Mizzou played well, but also a game that maybe they should have won?
Yeah, I think you saw it the way that I saw it also. The biggest thing when you're playing a team or teams the caliber of the Alabama Crimson Tide, the one thing you can't do is commit mental mistakes. And I think those were the things that really shot Mizzou in the foot. Mental mistakes, the taunting penalty early in the game, the 2 interceptions, the turnovers always will kill you. And those are the things that Mizzou has to be able to overcome. It's about consistent play, which Missouri has not played its best football all season long. If anyone tells you that, I don't know what team they've been watching. But, halfway through the season, and there are certainly areas that need to improve. And I think that they're capable of doing so. Eli Drakewitz preaches this every week. We want to be able to play better in the upcoming game that we played the following week. And in the week after that, play better than the last. They've yet to do that. You got to play a complete game. And again, against formidable opponents, it's hard to win when you make those kinds of mistakes. Also, you only go 1 for 10 on third down. Your offense has to be able to stay on the field and extend drives. Give your defense a rest. If the defense is off the field much more than it was, maybe they become more effective. And I thought the way that you do that, you've got to be able to run the football a lot more than Missouri attempted to run. It's their bread and butter. It's their identity. And I think they got away from it.
You allude to it. Ahmad Hardy, 12 carries. That seems like a missed opportunity.
Leading rusher in the nation going into that game. In my opinion, could have still been the leading rusher in the nation if he's gotten more opportunities to run the football. One of the things that as a running team, that's your identity. You're going to face good teams that have good defenses, and from time to time, they're going to stop you. You may not be able to rush for 275 yards, 300 yards every week, but you may not need to. You can't allow a defense to dictate what your strength is or control your strength. Missouri's strength is running football, controlling time of possession. They were not good in either area on Saturday. And you have to be able to force the issue when you've got a good running game. They're going to stop you from time to time, but you're also going to be able to hit some explosive plays in the run game when you have players that are that good, like Jamal Roberts, like Ahmad Hardy. And I think that's where that's where its strength is on offense. Defensively, I think the defense did about as well as it could given the caliber of players that Alabama had. But in spite of the mistakes that Missouri made, look, under 2 minutes left in the game, they got a chance to win this game. And I think what it shows is that the talent gap in the SEC, from top to bottom, that gap is closed significantly. And Missouri, I think Alabama will tell you, they gave us all we wanted. And if not for a few things that happened during the game, Missouri could walk away with a victory and be 6-0 right now.
What you can't control your schedule totally. You can control your non-conference, but there's certain things that you want to accomplish in non-conference, and you're going to play a lot of home games, especially when you have your power conference opponent at home like they did this year with Kansas. But what do you take away from just the fact that it's going to be October 18th on Saturday, and that's going to be their first road game? That doesn't seem to be the most ideal situation.
Well, Eli Drinkwitz will tell you that they've already had a road game, and that was during camp. Mizzou traveled to Lindenwood to scrimmage against the Lindenwood Lions. Now, it's not exactly a road game in the SEC, but it's the closest thing. I think to prepare your teams, he knew that he was going to have 6 straight home games. So he wanted to expose your team early, especially the newcomers that have not traveled with this football team. Give them some exposure so that they will know what to expect prior to this week in Auburn. At least they know where to go, where to be, what time, how it all works, how the taping schedule works, so that you have a sense of where you need to belong in a different environment. Because of having 6 straight home games, everyone gets a little bit complacent, but it's a little bit different on the road. So I give an A for effort for Drake to at least exposing his team to try to give them some sense of what a road game situation is like.
Yeah, it's we'll see how it all plays out. But I guess the bottom line, and we'll wrap up with this, is that everything is still there for the taking. One loss is not the end of the world. They go to Auburn this weekend. That's a winnable game against Auburn for sure. They are not world beaters by any stretch of the mind. They have not won a game in the SEC. You can look at every single game and feel like Missouri has a chance here moving forward, and that's a great place for this program to be at.
No doubt about it. But by the same token, if you don't play your best, you could lose those games as well. And I think the talent on this team is just really good, and it should not be allowing the things that you can control. It should not allow those things to have an effect on any of your games in the win-loss column. So if you clean up the mistakes, this team can play with anyone, and it's going to be hard to beat down the road. But again, that's why we play these games, right? Yeah. There are no gimmies. Everyone's tough. Everyone, faces the same sort of adversity. Everyone's got to travel on the road at some point and play in tough environments. Auburn is not the easiest place to play. Missouri went there 2 years ago and lost. Why? Mistakes. You fumble the ball forward through the end zone for a touchback, and then you miss a field goal, a chip shot. Those things you've got to be able to be better in those areas, especially when you're traveling on the road in the SEC.
One more thing for you. I know I said that a moment ago, but you said something that I want to follow up on. You talked about just the talent that's on this team. When you think through the history of Missouri football, is this consistently as much talent as they have had kind of a year in, year out? Once Drink got this thing rolling over the last few years, have they in recent history had this much talent, or is this a high point for the program?
Well, when you won 9 games last year, 10 the season before in the regular season, and you're on course to do at least that this season.
Yeah.
So I think in certain areas, the talent is better than it was the last couple of years. In certain areas, you're down a little bit. But I think they've improved in the quarterback position overall. They've improved at running back. The offensive line is going to yet to be determined at this point. Although you could say, well, you're leading the league in rushing through 6 games, or at least through 5 games. But we'll make that judgment by the end of the season. Defensively, they're on track. The secondary has to play better. Linebacker depth, I think, is really, really good. So we'll see by the end of the season if the win-loss record reflects the type of talent that I think that they have. I have a feeling it will. I'm confident that this team will be able to bounce back, understanding where they are, and just looking back at the video of the game and knowing that the game was, a victory was within its grasp as a team. If you got to play better. And this is why, as a coach, you preach every single play counts. every single play counts. I cannot stress that enough to these guys. So again, it's the mindset. Who do you want to be as an individual player? Collectively as a team, who do you want to be? How far do you want to go? It's really up to you.
He is Howard Richards. You hear him on Missouri football radio broadcast. Follow him on Twitter at @How_Rich. Howard, always appreciate the time. Thank you for doing this tonight, and we'll talk to you again down the line.
Anytime, my friend. Take care. Thank you.
Awesome. Very good. That's Howard Richards. Love being able to talk with him and get his insight on all things going on with Mizzou football. I really mean it. And people may have kind of took a double take just now when I said that you look at the schedule and you can see a way that Missouri can win every game the rest of the way. I'm not saying I expect them to win every game the rest of the way. There's going to be some tough games. Anytime you're on the road in the SEC, it's going to be tough. So even against an Auburn team this weekend, that's not a gimme by any stretch of the mind. And you certainly don't want to have a hangover coming off this past week. And this might be a desperate Auburn team, not just because they're winless in SEC play, but Hugh Freeze, man, that seat is warm once again. And if he doesn't collect some wins here before all is said and done, he's going to be looking for a new job for sure. So going to Vanderbilt the week after that, that's not easy. That's not easy at all. Going to the number 17 team in the nation. Vanderbilt is a legit team. Pavia, their quarterback, so he's good. And so you can see scenarios where Mizzou can win both those games. Home against Texas A&M, I think they can beat anybody at home. I don't think there's a team in the nation that they can't beat at home. Not that they will beat at home. That's going to be Texas A&M's really good, really, really good. I think they're a legit national championship contender for sure. But any home game, I'm going to look at that as an opportunity for win. Mississippi State that next week, they should win that. And then they finish at Oklahoma. That's going to be another really tough one. But we saw Oklahoma this past week. Now, the thing about Oklahoma this past week and their loss against Texas, they ran quarterback John Mateer back way too soon. So Mateer's been injured. He was out for a couple weeks. He was really pushing to get back. He was not fully healthy. He did not look good. Hindsight's 2020. I know you always want to have your guy out there, but Oklahoma made a mistake this past weekend having Mateer out there, and I think it cost them a game against Texas, and then they'll wrap up the season when they take on Arkansas on the road. So that's, again, not that they are going to win every game, not that they're going to be favored in every game. They're not going to be. They will not be favored in every game, but I don't think every single week you're going to be able to look at it and you're going to find a way to look at it in a way that you say, this is a winnable game for Mizzou. And this past weekend was winnable as well. And you just hope that at the end of the season, that Alabama loss doesn't come back to bite them, that they don't end up being a team that was just on the outside looking in on the college football playoff. And you feel like if they would have had that win against Alabama, that would have been the difference. You don't want that to happen, but if you can take care of business the rest of the way, you should be in pretty good shape. This weekend's college football schedule, it's okay. LSU, Vanderbilt, and Nashville, I think that's an interesting game. Anytime you start to really trust LSU, they kind of prove to you that maybe you shouldn't trust them. The Ole Miss Georgia game, that's arguably the biggest game in the nation this weekend. That's going to be in Athens. So that's last week we talked about the but with Mizzou. I think to a lesser extent, we have that with Ole Miss. I really, really like Lane Kiffin, but it feels like they don't win some of the big games, or sometimes they win the big game when it doesn't matter to win the big game. They've collected enough losses that it's kind of a late season big win. This would be huge for Ole Miss, and that would kind of get rid of a lot of the questions that certainly surround the program. Tennessee, Alabama, that's an interesting game. USC, Notre Dame is an interesting game coming up this weekend. Utah, BYU, there's some interest certainly to that one as well. So that's kind of a rundown of what's going to be taking place this weekend when it comes to the games of note across the country. As far as Illinois goes, they are going to take the weekend off, so they're not going to play this weekend. They'll get back after it coming up in just a while. All right, so we've still got a lot coming up here this hour. Again, the Blues and the Blackhawks are going to match up tonight. That's going to be officially, for those of you who are, I always know when there's a Blues game because I can look out our window and see all the cars that are driving around. For those that are driving around right now, looking for a parking spot, maybe getting a little worried because it's supposed to be an 8:30 puck drop and you want to make sure that you're in the building. Well, It's listed as 8:30. It's going to be 8:52, so you don't have to worry about it. You still got a little bit of time. You still got about 90 minutes until that's going to get started. But we're going to listen into Jim Montgomery a little bit, his pregame comments that he made to the media earlier today. We'll play some of those. And then St. Louis University women's soccer coach Katie Shields, she's going to join us in about 15 minutes. So you don't want to go anywhere. This is a Gray Bar Sports Open Line. We'll hear from Coach Montgomery. That's coming up in just a moment or so as we roll on with the Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior
Call 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269. 800-348-0269.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
KMOX is now on 104.1 FM, the same great station with even better sound.
It's a Great Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. My name is Matt Pauley. We are taking you until 8 o'clock this evening. The Blues tonight, they've got a late start over at the Enterprise Center. Officially an 8:30 puck drop against the Blackhawks. We were talking yesterday with Luke Horak, and he referred to it as like an 8:52 puck drop or something. So it might start a little bit after 8:30 this evening, a national TV game. Blues are looking for their first home win of the season. They began the year with a home game against Minnesota. Lost that game 5-0, went on the road, scored 9 goals over 2 games and wins against Calgary and Vancouver. And now this is going to start a period where they are going to play 4 straight games at home before the season even got started. Jim Montgomery talked so much about the importance of having success early on in the season because there are so many home games at this point in the year. Speaking of Montgomery, he spent some time talking with the media earlier today, and the Blackhawks are in town, which is always a good, fun environment when these two teams are able to get after it. And for Montgomery, he feels like this is a Chicago team that is going to provide a challenge for his team.
A couple of things. Vastly improved hockey team, play a lot faster, have numbers around the puck all the time in every zone. They're doing a 1-1-3 in a neutral zone, which is always hard to penetrate through. So game management, puck management is going to be important for us.
Montgomery hoping to see even more progress from his squad. I mentioned a few moments ago just the way the season has gone along, where it feels like they've played a better game each time out, going from Minnesota to Calgary to Vancouver. And Montgomery talked a little bit about what is leading to that progress every game and what has to happen for it to continue on.
Well, I think it's just trust in our process and our habits. Those things, along with game management, that's the things we need to continue to build.
Joel Hofer is going to start in goal tonight for the Blues. Montgomery said that it's not going to be a 50-50 split between him and Jordan Binnington. Binnington will still get more starts, assuming everybody's healthy and everything goes according to plan. But he did say that you'll probably see Hofer in goal a little bit more this year than you saw last year. So that split's going to get a little bit closer to 50-50. The fact that it is a schedule this year that's going to be more games in a shorter amount of time, that's certainly part of it. But Montgomery went on to explain a little bit more of why it's good for Binnington for Hofer to be able to play a little bit more this season.
If you look at Binner's career, more games he's played, it's just harder on the body. And being in the West, you switch time zones a lot more than you do in the East. You look at the goalies that play a lot. Martin Brodeur's career, he was in the East. Tuukka Rask played a lot of games in Boston. He was in the East. The goalie in Tampa, he's in the East.
And then when it comes specifically to Hofer, there's a lot of confidence in him, and they are very comfortable with him being in net.
I think his maturity of understanding the NHL, of just the experience of playing it, understanding the flow of the game, and understanding the importance of his position and how he commands the game. His confidence, he's never had an issue with confidence, and that's why he is such a good goaltender. I don't know any goaltender that I've met, and I've had the good fortune of being around great goalies in my career. I've been around Patrick Roy. I've been around Martin Brodeur because of growing up in Montreal. I've been around Cujo. And then as a coach, I've been around Bishop, and now I've been around Binnington. And in Boston, we had really high-end goaltenders. They want the net, and they believe they're going to make every save.
Last thing from Jim Montgomery. I thought this was interesting. He had previously mentioned Jordan Kyrou and Dylan Holloway, the two wingers on the second line. And those guys he had mentioned were pressing a little bit. Well, as he expounded on that today, he talked about just how early on in the season you see that a lot. A lot of individuals will be pressing, a lot of teams will be pressing. It's a very common thing early on in the season, but it's also something that can be fixed relatively quickly.
Being early in the year, it doesn't matter if it's a team or if it's an individual. you press. It seems like people press more early in the season. Like if you look at, an example, New York Rangers haven't scored in 3 games at home. And you could see it. They had opportunities last night. They played well, but they didn't finish. They're not calm. They're not relaxed. And what it takes one to go in. Happened to our team in game 2. We hadn't scored in 5 periods. It was about to be 5 periods. And then, we took one puck to an ugly area. And then all of a sudden our team relaxed. We started playing hockey. And that's going to happen for those 2 individuals. They're too talented. Their second and third effort is what I talk to them about, is that if their effort on the puck and being relentless and tenacious on pucks, same thing I said to Snuggerud before the Vancouver game, just go out and play. We get to play a game for a living. Go out and enjoy it.
That is Blues coach Jim Montgomery speaking with the media earlier today. Blues in action tonight. They welcome in the Chicago Blackhawks. That's going to be an 8:30 puck drop, maybe closer to 8:50, but officially 8:30 puck drop over at the Enterprise Center. And it's going to be a late night at the rink tonight, but that's all right. Hopefully the Blues are able to come away with a victory. We'll take another break, and then when we return, we are going to talk some St. Louis University women's soccer. They've got a big matchup coming up later on this week. Their head coach, Katie Shields, is going to join us after this as you are locked into a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
If you're one of the millions of Americans behind on your taxes,
moments and people that make this an event like no other. The Musial Awards, presented by Maryville University, Saturday, November 22nd. Tickets at musialawards.com.
Fridays mean football. From the zoo to the NFL, we've got your weekend covered.
On three, ready?
It's Friday football on KMOX.
This is a Graybar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX. I'll tell you once, this is something you've heard before, but we'll continue to say it. The St. Louis University women's soccer program, they are rolling as they always tend to do, and they've got a big one coming up tomorrow evening. They are going to play host to Dayton. That's going to be a matchup where first place is on the line. The SLU ladies right now, they have a league record sitting at 6-0 as far as Dayton goes. They're also 6-0, so first place on the line. And with that, we're very happy to welcome onto the program the head coach of the St. Louis University women's soccer program, Coach Katie Shields. Coach, thank you for taking some time. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know. I know you guys like to take every game one game at a time and not put too much importance on a single game, but the numbers are what the numbers are, and this obviously is a very important matchup coming up tomorrow night.
It is, and I think every season we seem to be marching towards a game like this. And I'm excited that this team has put themselves in the position to have an opportunity like tomorrow night's game. Dayton's a really good opponent, has had a really good start as well, and I think it'll be a tremendous college soccer game.
I was looking at some of your numbers, and I feel like, we talk every year, and it feels like there's always one or two kids that we really spotlight on. But this year, you've got two players with 4 goals. You've got 4 players with 3 goals. Is this one of those years where it really is, you got a whole bunch of players on the team that are contributing, and anybody can have that big night at any given moment?
Yeah, I think it makes this maybe tricky to prepare for, because you're not sure who exactly is going to be on a given night. And I think we're getting goals from different players, goals in different ways. So obviously you love to have a pure goal scorer, but that doesn't necessarily, have to be the recipe for success. And I think for us, this is exciting because you do have so many different weapons that you can find different ways to win games. And that's definitely what this team is shaping up to be.
29 total goals this season, 23 have been assisted, and there have been different player combinations on 21 of those 23 goals. I know that goes to just what you were saying, but that's a numerical representation of just how you can do things in so many different kind of ways.
Yeah, and I think it's great because we're getting a lot of contributions from younger players who are just getting better day by day. And then, you get some veterans in there as well when you need them. And it's been enjoyable to watch this team continue to grow. And I think, that growth and that versatility will be on display tomorrow night.
How tough is it? Because you knew this matchup was coming tonight or tomorrow night, and you played Duquesne this past weekend on Sunday. You come away with a 2-1 victory. As a coach, is there anything that you need to do to make sure in situations like that with just this huge game looming that you make sure your team doesn't look over a game looking to that next one?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we just, as a program, pride ourselves on. It's how we always message the team. The team knows that. And hey, Duquesne was sitting in 3rd place right behind us in Dayton. So we knew how good they were, and they proved to be a very stubborn opponent as well. And so, for us, we're always game by game. We also know within the league, just with our history, we're going to get everyone's best shot. And so we never look past anybody. And we just try to I know it's coach speak, but improve ourselves day to day, game to game. So we're playing our best soccer come November, and tomorrow it is just the next opponent. It's a great opportunity to solidify, first place in the standings, help continue to control our destiny, but it is just the next game. And we, whether the outcome, we'll be ready for the next one come Friday as well.
You always schedule really, really tough in the non-conference. You did that again this year. You had matchups against Penn State, Missouri, Indiana, Iowa. You're always going up against major conference teams. You go on the road, all that. What did you learn about your team in those early season matchups against some of the competition that I know you'll be hoping to see much later in this season?
Yeah, I think for us, it helped us really solidify and understand areas that we weren't, as stable in, or pieces we needed to really put together. It also just helped us play at the pace and the level that we aspire to be at, or try to play at the pace and the level. It also helped some of our young players see what it looks like and experience what it looks like on the road and at home against, top 10, top 25 opponents. And so for us, it's definitely the exposure piece. But this group, it's also trying to gain experience together in some of those moments and learn how to close out games, learn lessons when you can see goals that you're not happy about. And how to, continue to again, get better, but you got to test yourself to really know, where you got to grow. And I think those games really helped us with that.
You talk about the group going through those experiences together. How much fun is it when you watch an entire group kind of lift up all together as the season moves along?
Yeah, it's awesome, and I think there's some people maybe that would have counted us out this year, so it's a rebuilding year. It's it graduated all these players, and that's just not our expectation as a program. And I think this team in particular took that challenge head on and is taking that challenge head on and has something to prove and at times has a chip on their shoulder. And I love that kind of underdog at times mentality that we've seen, even though, again, this is a team that's currently sitting in first place playing for first place. But I like that spirit that is emerged from this group.
You are going to get Dayton's absolute best effort. Talk to me a little bit about them and what it's going to take for you to come away victorious.
Yeah, they're a really good team. They're a top 50 team. They're veteran, so it's a very different, they have a lot of players that have been in the program, played a lot of heavy minutes together. They're, junior, senior heavy. So they're experienced. They know what it looks like. They know what playing fluid looks like for them. They're athletic. They've got some talented pieces. And I think they don't give up a lot of chances, and they have only conceded one goal in the league. So, I think it'll be a tight game. And I think, I don't think it'll be a high scoring fest, but we'll see. I think for us, we'll prepare the team for Dayton. We always focus on ourselves and focus on being the best version of ourselves. And you're going to have to come deal with us. And as long as we put our best foot forward, we'll walk away, proud of the performance.
As you evolved as a coach and with your coaching staff, I always find it very interesting when coaches look more inward in terms of what they want to do, or look more at the other team in the scouting report and try to attack something specific to other teams each matchup. How did you come to the place where you're at right now, where it's almost always going to be doing what you do best?
Well, I think part of that is that, that's the recipe we found success in, is doing what we do best, trusting our talent, trusting our players, trusting our identity. And I saw a quote today from Critchley at City that talks about, culture eats tactics for breakfast. And so we've always been culture driven. We've always been mentality driven. And I think anytime we've veered from that over my, 13 years, we've been a little disappointed. And so, just kind of try to stay true. And of course there are little adaptations or little changes and adjustments that'll happen through the games, but we want to be us through and through, and our players, they just feel confident in themselves too when they know what's expected of them and who we are.
I know you guys take a lot of pride in the home field advantage that is Herman Stadium and the fans that come out every single time. You're talking to a lot of people right now, though, on the radio that have probably never come out to see you guys play. As we wrap things up, just kind of share what fans can expect and why they should come out, especially for a huge game tomorrow night at 7:00.
Yeah, I think Herman Stadium is the best college soccer venue in the country. It'll be a beautiful night. It looks like weather-wise. Our women they're champions. They play like champions. They play on the edge of their seat. It'll be a pretty high-paced, high-intensity attacking game, and I think they're just incredible. They play with incredible passion and joy, and I think Herman Stadium, when full, is there's no place like it. And so take a lot of pride in representing St. Louis. We've got a lot of our women from St. Louis, and so we love when the city comes out to support us.
It's going to be SLU and Dayton tomorrow night, 7:00 at Herman Stadium. Two teams that are 6-0 in league play, first place on the line. Coach, always appreciate you taking some time with us. Best of luck tomorrow night, and hopefully we're talking again very, very soon as postseason play is not that far off.
Thanks so much.
That is Coach Katie Shields. We will take a break. We've got a lot more coming up as we roll on with the Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Do you hear that?
Save big money at Menards.
This is Megan Lynch. 250 doctors go to Ophthalmology Associates. That's why I trust them. Ophthalmology Associates, 314-966-5000 or youridoc.com.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
For one final time, back at it with you on a Gray Bar Sports Open Line right here on KMOX, starting to wrap things up. It's been a fun show tonight for sure. Appreciate Katie Shields, the head coach over at St. Louis University Women's Soccer, for joining us just a few moments ago. Again, they've got a big-time matchup tomorrow evening, Herman Stadium, when they are going to match up against Dayton. A couple things before we do get out of here for the night. When we get done, we'll get the 8 o'clock news. And then we've got a Gas House Gang replay coming up. If you didn't catch it earlier today, it is Tom Ackerman and Chris Ranji, somebody who we had on this show not that long ago, but good friend Jerry Augustine. He's going to be on to talk baseball playoffs. So he's going to be on in just a little while. One of my favorite people to be able to listen to. So that's going to be coming up in just a while. Tomorrow night, Nate Gatter is going to be in for me. I've got the night off tomorrow. Kind of cool. I am a proud graduate of Ladue High School, and recently the school district decided that they were going to start a Ladue Sports or Ladue Athletics Hall of Fame, and they have the gala coming up tomorrow night, and evidently nobody else was available, so they asked me to MC it tomorrow night, so that's where I'm going to be at, and really looking forward to that. That's a cool thing to have gone to that school and then be asked to MC a gala with just an incredible group of athletes and teams that are being honored. It's going to be awesome. So looking forward to that. And then, so Nate will be with you tomorrow night, and then I'll be with you coming up again on Friday. I just want to reiterate this one more time before we get out of here. And I don't like talking negatively about people I respect and people who did a good job and people that were important parts of things that I care deeply about. And I care deeply about the St. Louis Cardinals. And I so much appreciate what Mike Schilt did for the Cardinals when he was managing the team. And it obviously got to a point where his personality and some choices that he made resulted in him not being the manager anymore. And then seemingly those exact same things played out in San Diego, and he's not the Padres manager anymore. And because of the story that came out over the last day or so, we've been forced to talk a lot about it. So much of our conversation in this show in the last day or so has been focused in on some of the negative personality characteristics of a Mike Schilt. And that's where I don't like talking about the negative stuff on people that Mike Schilt's a really good manager. Like, I feel like sometimes for people who don't like Oliver Marmol and they do like Mike Schilt, it's like you're either Team Ollie or Team Schilt. And it's never been that way for me. I think Mike Schilt's a heck of a manager. And he says he's never going to do it again. I don't know if he's ever going to have the opportunity to do it again. I think if he ever gets interviewed for a job again, he's going to have some very direct questions to answer when it comes to how he deals with other people in the organization, because now it's two organizations where it just hasn't gone quite well for him. But we all have not so great aspects of our personalities. I always talk about you don't want to be judged in your worst moment. I think you also don't want to be judged on the worst part of your personality. Now, there's certain lines that if you cross and if you do something in a certain way, you have to be judged on it. And essentially that's what's happened with Schilt, because he's been a major league manager with two different teams and he's not with either team. And it has little to nothing to do with the performance that he got from his team. Certainly not in St. Louis. And no, he was going to be back in San Diego. They were going to try to work with him on some things, but he was going to be back in San Diego. Did they underachieve in the playoffs each of the last 2 years? I think so. I think it's fair to say they were a team that had World Series aspirations, and it simply did not happen. But I just wanted to finish off with this. Like, Mike Schilt is a really, really important person to the history of the St. Louis Cardinals, both as the major league manager and all the work that he did in the minor leagues as well, and had such a positive impact on so many players. Is it disappointing to see the way some things went down with him? Yes, it is. And that has unfortunately become the story over the last 24 to 48 hours. I hope as we continue to move forward, assuming that his career really has come to an end as a major league manager, and he will be back in baseball in some form or fashion, I hope we can, both us here in St. Louis and even the folks in San Diego, can look at more of the positives than the negatives, because he certainly has earned that and deserves it. That is it for the program tonight. Again, Nate Gatter in tomorrow. I will talk to you again coming up on Friday. This has been a Gray Bar Sports Open Line on KMOX.
Have you recently lost a loved one and now you're handling their estate? Losing someone close to you is